Interest is the issue. Interest is what engenders unjustified debts and eventually terminal debts. And these debts aren't even debts to the banking system, which, is merely a publisher of evidence of the promissory obligations. The debt isn't owed to the bank. The paid principal should and must be retired from circulation to avoid the problems. So it was a while, but only a matter of a few months, before eventually, in exploring every possible direction, it came down to one simple fact, that the only way to monetize our production is an obligation to pay for it, first of all, and secondly, the payment must be retired from circulation as the real creditor who gave up the property for the promissory obligation. You see, this prescription, these two aspects which are indispensable, actually prescribe a promissory obligation, which should be considered just a promissory obligation, but we might further say they prescribe an unexploited promissory obligation. So this is the only form that money can actually even take, is a promissory obligation, because principal must be paid and it must be retired from circulation in order for the tokens of value to be indeed immutable. So all of these other ideas which arise are simply ignorant of these issues. Yes, indeed, I hadn't explained everything that I went through from day one through 43 years down the road, which so affirms these ideas, as the only resolution and the only math which is accountable for all these issues. Yes, but in part, I was forced not to tell every detail, which is impossible anyway, because of all the plagiarism, because Jacques Jacquerin immediately plagiarized my, just a couple of years into the formal internet, he's plagiarizing my Parable of Perfect Economy, which is not even a historic event, from the first page of, quote, his, unquote, debt virus thesis. A merely stolen idea, from someone else, blatantly plagiarized from the first page of the debt virus. And so it just took off from there. There was plagiarist after plagiarist after plagiarist after plagiarist. And people get upset with me when I challenge the integrity of their stealings from me. It's kind of odd to be considered some kind of offender to hold the thief accountable. And they accuse you of being out for yourself, and that actually happened recently, and all kinds of preposterous things are cobbled on to their defense. But the issue is, we have one solution, and it's the only thing that can serve us. So recently, some of the allied web presences, that is, folks like Jacob Schott of the Netherlands, who's the founder of the European Central Banking movement, and Mark Giles and the Bank of England. There's people all over the world who are working to rein in these deviant plagiarist imitators. I mean, why has all this, if it weren't for the integrity of my original work, why has all this mushroomed into this preposterous number of millions of sites who suddenly understand the obfuscation of the currency without even being able to articulate it, much less relate it into a proof of singular solution, which they just, though it says as much on every page of my web presences since 1995 or before even. Uh, they've simply stolen from it anyway, often even preserving my definitions and whatnot, which, in special terms, which, arise only in the fact of a credible development of this fact of one and one only mathematically perfected economy. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is just one of these typical sites that arose over the past few weeks as a controversial issue between a number of us who are holding others accountable for their insertion of themselves into the equation in what amounts to a divisive way, even if, and I say that word "if" with great reservation, even if they have actually genuine intentions to or hopes, let's say, to achieve solution. Now, in the course of these recent weeks here, I'm going to try and make this short and as painless as possible, because my purpose isn't to discredit people who deserve to be known for what they're really about. That's something that is bound to happen in due course. And more or less they've brought upon themselves by thinking that they ought or deserved somehow to inject themselves into this forum or arena of prospective solutions, especially in the wake of a proof of singular solution. So, in truth, all of these sites are preposterous, and it doesn't take very long to get to the bottom of any of them. But the one set of pages that I meant to evaluate or undress today is a site which purports to offer a quote lawful bank unquote proposition. This page is lawfulbank.com. It's basically one web page. I'll just take you through it. It's welcome to the lawful bank. You get to log in. Well, what are you a member of? If there is such a thing as an alternate lawful bank, first of all, that if depends upon whether or not the laws of a country have restricted the obfuscation of the currency or the issuance of currency, whichever we care to consider it, to the banking system that exists, the present central banking system. If so, and in most cases that I'm familiar with, if not all, that is so, there is no such thing as simply claiming that you can create another lawful bank. Now, however you may or may not want to try and defend this idea, what are you introducing as a proposition? Our proposition makes such a thing legal and prescribes exactly how to do it to the benefit of the people. That is, without any redundant cost whatsoever, virtually even without any cost whatsoever. The only costs are software and maintenance of a physical data system. So the idea of just creating a purportedly lawful bank and calling it a lawful bank is really relatively ignorant. It's not something that you can just do. And this is why, of course, the Federal Reserve note says this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Legal tender. That's the exclusive privilege that the Federal Reserve System secured to itself above and beyond public assent, without a public mandate, so that it could impose this obfuscation of the currency upon the people. When we come upon a site such as this purported lawful bank site, welcome to the lawful bank, what are we to suppose? Do we not think that this site is somehow inserting itself into the equation to propose a contending proposition? Well, of course it is. And so it's competing, in effect, with the proposition of mathematically perfected economy. It's not just competing, but by the number of these sites, is totally obscuring the fact that a singular solution exists. So there's tremendous offenses in this when you think of 125,000 children under the ages of 12 roaming the streets of just one city, Los Angeles, homeless. Tremendous implications by obscuring what are irrefutable arguments by some preposterous proposition that something else is equally deserving of our attention. So as I look at these pages, it's, the home page is welcome to the lawful bank. The lawful bank provides a gateway to, quote, the alternative monetary system, unquote. TAMS, T-A-M-S, it calls itself. The alternative monetary system. Why and by what principle? In this whole page, there isn't an articulation of the principles which would serve us, much less even a principle which serves us. Of course, the author probably believes there is. They claim, as we will see, to be providing the kind of a bank that would serve the people, in that the people have control of it. But this isn't the kind of control that we need at all. It's in name only, and of course, when you haven't even cited the principles, what are we then to become a member of? What thing are we achieving? We don't even know what it is because it isn't even stated here. Yes, some lofty goals are asserted, which are the objects of mathematically perfected economy. But there's no proof that this instrument, the lawful bank, would achieve them. So it says the lawful bank provides a gateway. I'm just reading down the one page of this website. The lawful bank provides a gateway to, quote, the alternative monetary system, unquote. That's such a lie itself. Do you realize how many alternative monetary systems have been just proposed in just the last 3 or 4 years even? None of them are new ideas. They all, most of them, side with the idea that money can't be a debt, advocated by this video which we invalidated in the previous program here, and which the author of these pages actually advocates as well, wrongly. But do you think he offers a defense for that errant proposition? And can this bank succeed in sustaining the prosperity that we are capable of?